Visiting Banff is the most difficult vacation we have ever planned. Between transportation, lodging, and navigating all the cool things our are to see and do, this took us hours and hours of time. My name is Cheryl and this is my husband Matt, and we're in the Rockies, and the whole purpose of our channel is to help people have amazing trips. This vacation we headed to the Great White North to explore Banff and Jasper, and we have learned a lot. So today what we are hoping we can do is to share some of our mistakes, things we've learned, and help you have an amazing trip to Banff.
So let's first talk about what is Banff National Park. Well, Banff is located in Canada, in Alberta, the province of Alberta, Canada. It was Canada's first national park and is still its most popular national park with over 4 million visitors a year. It really is a lot like Yellowstone in the United States in that respect. Gets about the same number of visitors, the same amount of enthusiasm and passion for this incredible place, and it's actually the second oldest park in the world. Yellowstone's the oldest and Banff is the second oldest, so they're kind of like twins in a way. As I mentioned, it's located in Alberta. It's about an hour and a half away from Calgary, is the nearest big city. Banff is both a national park and a city within the national park. The little city of Banff was set up just for tourism. The entire park was founded early on and then was established for tourists to come and visit. And so the town has a lot of shops, a lot of restaurants. It's very condensed. I would say the city of Banff, its twin in the United States is Jackson, Wyoming. It's very, very similar to Jackson. Jackson just has a little bit more of that Old West theme, but they're both, kind of part and parcel of visiting the national park.
So why is Banff so popular? It really is some of the most beautiful country in the entire world. There are just, the Bow River is amazing. It's that turquoise green. There's gorges and waterfalls throughout it. The turquoise lakes that we've all seen pictures of.
Moraine Lake and Lake Louise.
Yes.
These two really popular lakes. The lakes are just gorgeous.
And then of course there's the wildlife. There's the glaciers, wildflowers. I mean, it has, in fact,
towering mountain peaks.
Yes, and in fact there's even some geothermal features here. That's why Banff was founded, they found a spring. And so
another relation to Yellowstone.
Yes.
There, that is why it was founded, is because of the hot springs.
So,
and you can still sit in the developed hot springs today. You can take the gondola up to the top of the mountain, river floats, wagon rides, horse rides. I mean, there's a lot to do in Banff.
mm-hmm.
The town is just nestled in there with these towering peaks. Mount Rundle, just sheer drop off of Mount Rundle. Really, really beautiful mountain peaks. I mean, the Canadian Rockies they were sculpted by glaciers, and so they're much, much more jagged than most of our American Rockies. And don't forget about the hotels. There's some really fancy hotels in Banff National Park. There's Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel, which is known as the Castle of the Rockies. Sits up on the hillside there, above everything and just perched over looking down on the city. There's the Chateau, Lake Louise, there's the Rimrock Resort. A lot to see and do in Banff. Now let's talk about getting there. How do you get to Banff? Pretty much everybody, or most people, are getting there by flying into Calgary, Alberta, and then driving an hour and a half to Banff. It takes about an hour and a half to get there from Calgary. That is, probably what the vast majority of people are doing, which is one of the reasons it's so popular. It's really easy to get to. I mean, you have to fly to Calgary, but then it's really a fairly short distance to get there. And Calgary is a major city, so
and a beautiful city. In fact, that's what we did. We stopped in Calgary on the way here, and we spent a day, and it was a great little mix-up of doing some national park and some city. It was just a really good variety.
If you're doing a road trip, Banff is located on Highway 1, which is like the main transcontinental highway in Canada. It goes from coast to coast. Some people actually do trips where they travel all along Highway 1 for about a week or two from coast to coast. So many things to do there. Some people will team this up with a trip to Vancouver. So they'll go from like Calgary into Banff through the Rockies and end in Vancouver and fly home that way. So a lot of different ways you can do it. Also common to team this up with Glacier National Park. At least for us Americans, it's very common to team this up with a visit to Glacier National Park, and then you do Waterton Lakes National Park, which is in Canada, Banff, Jasper. Those are kind of the common groupings there. One other thing to be aware of is you can take a train to Banff. And so there's something called the Rocky Mountaineer, a luxury train that goes from Vancouver to Banff National Park through the Rockies there. That would be an incredible way to see the Rockies, because you're getting off the path that a lot of times the cars can't go in the same places that the trains are going. So luxury. I heard yesterday from the park ranger here in town that if you do that, everybody has a window side seat. So that sounds pretty cool. They also have a more affordable train called Via Rail that does travel at night, but still you're getting through the Rockies there. So a couple of options there to get to Banff National Park.
Let's talk transportation. First of all, we do believe you can actually do Banff without having a car, although we brought our car with us and we were glad we had it. There is parking all over the town of Banff, and there is a really nice system at Parks Canada. I've never seen parking run so well. Outside of the garages there will be a little digital sign that will tell you how many parking spots are left, and you can get on the app and actually look at all the parking garages, and then you can find a spot to park. And the parking, I would say, is pretty affordable for our time here. It was about $4 an hour when we were here, and so it wasn't like visiting New York City. It was kind of nice that way. And so yes, but there is parking along the street, there's parking in the garages. Just make sure you pay attention to the signs, because the Canadians do not mess around. They will give you tickets. We actually were the receivers of a parking ticket on our stay.
we got a parking ticket.
Yeah, of course unintentionally. We didn't realize we were in a wrong zone. So that's one of our mistakes hopefully you can learn from, is just to pay attention to the signs, pay attention to the meters, and there is plenty of parking throughout town, but during the busy times of day, and the city of Banff can get crazy. We're here late July, early August.
Really crowded.
It can get very crowded, and so one of our tips is, if you are needing to park in Banff, and especially if you're trying to make a reservation to somewhere, give yourself way more time. Like we say, give yourself 30 more minutes than you think you need, so that you can find a parking spot and comfortably get to where you need to be, because no one likes to be rushed. If you have enough time, it's a whole different experience than if you were just in a desperate hurry to find a parking spot. And also driving throughout the park, cars are allowed everywhere. I mean, there's nowhere that's off limits to cars except for parking at Moraine Lake.
Which we'll get to.
Yes.
Okay, very good. And then the other thing to know about is the shuttles. This is really important because they have a really good bus system in Banff. I mean, we call them shuttles, but they're really just buses. It's just like the town, bus system. And they get you to all the main points in the park. So it is actually possible to fly into Calgary, catch a shuttle to Banff, and then only use shuttles to get around for your entire vacation. It's actually a possibility. I don't think many people do that, but I want to try it someday, actually, because it would be kind of nice not to have to deal with some of the parking issues. But I think most people are probably going to use some sort of a combination between driving their car and using shuttles occasionally, because it is nice to use the shuttles to get around the town of Banff. It costs about $2 per ride. And again, they'll just take you pretty much anywhere you want to go, all to the main spots there.
One other option, though, is you can actually see quite a bit of Banff on foot or via bike. Biking is very popular. There's designated bike lanes. There's actually, within the town of Banff, there's pedestrian-only sections where you can walk around and shop. But we had a day here where we parked our car in a central location and then walked around town, and that was nice to not have to worry so much about the parking. And so there are some options for you for transportation.
Now, we mentioned the Moraine Lake and Lake Louise situation. There's a parking and shuttle situation there that we will discuss a little bit later. Okay, let's talk about lodging now at Banff. Where are you going to stay if you visit Banff National Park? Well, there's really only two practical options. The first is in the town site of Banff, which has a ton of hotels. Again, it's got those really, really fancy hotels. So if you're willing to pay $1,500 a night, you could stay in one of those castles. But otherwise, you're still going to pay a fair amount of money to stay in the town site of Banff, but there are tons of options there for you in the town of Banff. The other place is about 20 minutes away, a city called Canmore. Canmore is more of a regular working city, but not to be missed either, actually. That's a really beautiful city, just a great downtown shopping area with some boardwalks and a river running through it, and just gorgeous mountains around you. In fact, in some ways I like Canmore better than Banff. So Canmore is a great place to stay, not all that far away. It's going to be a little cheaper. They actually have more lodging options there. because they're not restricted by some of the national park policies on growing and all that. So they have tons of options there in the city of Canmore, and that's really about it.
And I was to say, I liked Canmore too because it kind of got you out of the craziness of Banff, and you still got the beautiful views. The mountains, like Canmore does not take a backseat to Banff. The mountains in Canmore are just as beautiful, and from our observation, the locals visit Canmore and the international visitors visit Banff. So you can actually get the best of two worlds going to Canmore and Banff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I was going to say though, I mean, lodging, you're looking at $300 and up. We saved a lot of money staying in Canmore. We got a Verbo. It was great. We had a big house and it wasn't too expensive. So if you're traveling in a large group, that's a great option for you.
By the way, that's Canadian dollars. Okay, so just there's another basic tip for you is that Canada uses the Canadian dollar. A lot of people don't know this. I don't even know that I knew it when I was planning the trip, but they use the Canadian dollar. Currently, as we're shooting this, the U.S. dollar is stronger, so it's about a 25% discount when Americans go to Canada to visit. So that's the Canadian price, but it could be a little cheaper when you actually pay with your American dollar.
Okay, let's talk about food. We actually have a whole other video about food in Banff, so you need to check that out. But our basic opinion about food is try some Canadian food. It's great. There's a great ice cream shop downtown. What's it called?
Moose.
Moose, okay? People are obsessed with moose. We love getting beaver tails. We're not big fans on poutine, but really watch our video all about food.
Yes, we'll cover that in great depth in another video. Yep.
All right.
But tons of restaurants both in Banff and in Canmore. There's a lot of cool dining experiences that you can have in some of those fancier hotels with views. I mean, Banff, you will not go wrong with food in Banff. You'll have plenty of options.
Unless you try poutine. You might not like that.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, now let's talk about some of the main problems, the main issues that you're going to experience when you visit Banff National Park. For me, this was one of the most difficult trips I've ever planned. We brought our family here, our 4 kids, also Cheryl's parents and my parents, so there's 10 of us. Causes some problems in and of itself, but just there's a lot of logistics going on with Banff. So we mentioned the Moraine Lake and the Lake Louise situation earlier.
I think a lot of people see pictures of Lake Louise, and that's the whole reason they come.
Those pictures don't lie. They are really, really beautiful lakes. But everybody knows this. There are some changes going on here, but what they've done here is limit the parking at Moraine Lake. Like nobody can park almost at Moraine Lake. And then Lake Louise does have a larger parking lot. They actually have 2 parking lots there that people can park at. But that parking lot fills up at about 6:30 in the morning.
And it'll probably just get earlier every year.
Yeah, you never know there. So they do have an overflow parking, which is a couple of miles away. And then they can shuttle you to the parking lot there, or to the lake. But to use that, you actually need to get a reservation for the shuttle. It's not like, say, Zion National Park where they just have shuttles running one after another. You actually need to get a reservation to use that shuttle from the overflow parking to the lake. So you need to get on that pretty early. If you don't do that, you can actually get a shuttle all the way from the town of Banff. So Lake Louise and Moraine Lake are about an hour away from Banff town site. And so you can actually get a shuttle from Banff all the way up there, and that's what we did. Again, we had a few complications there because we didn't get there early enough, and some of this was our fault. Well, probably all of it was our fault, right? But it was a little crazy. That day was a little hectic, and wow, I just was so surprised at the number of people that were there at Lake Louise when we arrived. And so that's something that you need to be aware of. Like, you really need to do your homework on that. And then the other, kind of leading into that, the other issue that I had planning this trip is just that there was a number of different things that I needed reservations for, like that cool experience where you take the ice machine and you get to walk up on a glacier, the skywalk, the gondola, boat rides. Like, all these are really kind of a essential part of the experience of visiting Banff National Park, and so you need to get reservations for all these things. Piecing together the itinerary was a bit of a challenge, but fortunately we have a guide for you to help you plan out your itinerary, to structure your days so that you can fit all these in a logical order and sequence. In fact, we partnered with people who are locals here called the Mountain Town Ramblers. They have a podcast, and they helped us make a travel guide for Banff and Jasper National Park. By the way, don't forget about Jasper National Park, which is where we're at right now. Beautiful place to visit in conjunction with Banff. And we came here and followed our own itinerary, and it was amazing. It worked out so well. We just used all their knowledge and experience in running our trip, and it was incredible. The whole thing worked really, really well. So we have that guide for you on our website at we'reintherockies.com. Go check it out now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, go to the Great White North, young traveler.